McQuestion, talking about things that matter with people who care. Production of McQuestion is made possible in part by individual viewers, supporters of the Foundation for Responsible Television, the Hatton W. Sumner's Foundation for the Study of Teaching and Self-Government, the Meadows Foundation serving the people of Dallas, Collin County Business Press, locally relevant, personally profitable, and Sundown Ranch, one sundown at a time.
The bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers, the forced sale of Bear Stearns, and the fraud of Bernie Madoff have been front page news for 2 years. We're going to examine the problems on Wall Street and ask whether the nation's source of building capital has become merely the capital of greed. We have 3 experts in corporate governance, all of whom will be speaking at the University of Texas at Dallas's Institute for Excellence in Corporate Governance tomorrow. So let's hear what they have to say. Starting on my left is Max Hopper. Max formed his own company, Max Hopper Associates, Inc. in 1995, where he served as president and CEO. But he served for 20 years in various capacities with American Airlines, most recently as Senior Vice President of Information Systems and Chairman of the Sabre Group. He served on a lot of boards, which he still does, including PGP, Airgate, PCS, Metrocall, Payless Cashway, Sierra Atlantic. Max, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You've seen a lot, and we're going to get to hear from that experience. Now, sitting next to you is Frederick E. Shad Rowe. He owns Rowe & Company, and he founded Greenbrier Properties Limited in 1985. Greenbrier is a private partnership which invests primarily in publicly traded securities. In addition to Rowe & Company and Greenbrier, he serves on the Texas Pension Review Board and is a member of the Executive Committee of Texans for Lawsuit Reform. He's also written articles that have appeared in Forbes, Fortune, the American Banker, and of course people keep writing about you in the New York Times and telling all these stories about you. Shad, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
And finally, Bob Potter. Bob has his own company, president of R.J. Potter Company. They're a technical and business consulting firm based in Irving. He served in various capacities at a number of companies, including president and CEO of DataPoint, Group Vice President Nortel, Senior Vice President, Chief Technical Officer, International Harvester, and Division President of Xerox. He serves on a couple of publicly traded boards, Molex and Zebra Technologies, and several private companies as well. Bob, welcome to the program too.
Thank you.
Shad, let me begin with you. You've gotten this reputation throughout the country as being a maverick, as somebody just is really angry with what's happened in corporate America lately. Tell us what you're mad about.
I don't look that angry. No, I'll tell you, you mentioned it's been about a year since our system almost went down the drain. And a lot of causes have been attributed to it, but in my opinion, they're missing what the real cause is.
Which is?
Well, it's that corporate boards are not representing owners. They're not thinking like owners. They're allowing chief executives to make heads I win, tails shareholders lose bets that have jeopardized our system. And in my opinion, the idea that shareholders are directly represented by their corporate directors is an idea that is law, but it's not conventional wisdom. And if it becomes conventional wisdom, it's the greatest thing that could happen to preserve and enhance our capitalist system.
Why do you think it is? Why has that happened? Because, as you say, on paper, it is law. The shareholders elect the directors. But what's happened?
Well, what's happened is that it's evolved into sort of a headhunter type deal with all sorts of criteria for directors, except ownership. Ownership is the litmus test, in my opinion. You'll notice that Brown Brothers Harriman didn't go broke, Stevens Inc. didn't go broke, private companies didn't go broke because they treated money like it was their own money. Now, if you have somebody else's money and you can make a crazy bet, and you might make a fortune, and the shareholders might lose something, that's what you're incentivized to do. So what we have to do is inculcate the idea, re-inculcate it, that directors are the legal representatives of shareholders. And the way to implement that is to allow a 5% holder to call a special meeting and throw them out if they get a majority vote. There might be a clearinghouse for directors so that the shareholders themselves could pick their directors. But that idea has to come back, and we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need to save capitalism, and that's the way to do it. Make the owners act like owners.
Bob, you can tell he doesn't have a strong opinion, and having known you for a while, I know you have strong opinions. Do you agree with him or not?
I agree that the directors are absolutely the
responsive to the stockholders. On the boards in which I have served and do serve, we have created incentive plans for the management that are tied to stockholder performance. There's no question that there are some companies where the boards have behaved and have allowed the management to behave in a way which is disadvantage to the stockholders. But those are the exceptions. They're not the rule.
Yeah, they just happen to be big-time exceptions that make all the newspapers, right?
That's correct. If there are 10,000 airplanes that land at DFW safely today, it doesn't make the newspaper. If there's a crash tonight, it makes the newspaper.
Exactly.
Or 30 or 40 crashes.
Yeah, or 30, 40
and
crashes,
if we
right.
and we have had crashes,
Yeah.
and those crashes have been due, and we see some of them in excessive salaries of chief executives and senior officers, but they were approved by the compensation committee. It's not that CEO that makes the headline, it's the compensation committee that's responsible.
And which is what Shad says, the directors didn't do their job on the compensation committee. Now, Max, you've served on, I don't know how many boards. Can you even keep up with how many boards you've served on?
No, but
Okay.
I would, in 2 points. First of all, I do agree with Bob that most companies' boards, the directors do represent the shareholders. In fact, every one that I've been on and currently serve on do so. I would also, though, acknowledge that I think in some companies, the companies themselves have gotten so big, and we could mention 1 or 2 major financial institutions. I did serve in one for a few years way back, where I think they've gotten so big that the directors cannot get their arms around what's going on within the company themselves. I think we've allowed perhaps too large a growth, and in those circumstances I think it is detrimental to the shareholders because I don't think the directors can keep track.
Let me tag on to that for me. I have said, and that person who watches this show regularly knows that I'm a recovering banker, and there it is, such as it is. I was a community banker in small banks. But I really have told all of my banking colleagues around the country, and still do, that once you get to be, I'm not sure you can run a $100 billion bank, much less a trillion plus. Can you really run one well in your estimation or not?
Well, I was on a $100 billion bank when I was there, and I think we did a reasonably good job. But I think, again, it depends on the range of products you're trying to serve. If you move into investment banking, if you move into brokerage, if you move into all the other financial products that some folks are trying to create under this umbrella of a bank holding company, I think that gets beyond the ability to really manage it.
Yeah. Now, Shad, I want to ask you about whether you agree with that or not, but let me tell you a quick story about Enron, and it's something that obviously all of us know that Enron went broke in 2001. And I've been very critical of the directors of Enron, as a lot of people. However, I believe the guy's name was Steve Cooper, who was a turnaround guy that went down there. Do you guys remember? Do you know Steve Cooper? After they took bankruptcy, he went down there. And he came to Dallas in 2002. And he said this to me, and he's this audience I was in, Shad. He said that he felt sorry for the directors, which I was amazed at, because he said, I'm not the best financial analyst of any person in the world. He said, but I've been in enough turnaround situations. You guys have seen your share of financial statements, as have I. And he said, I want to tell you, I couldn't understand Enron's financials, and I know those directors couldn't. So if that's the case, what would you say to the directors in that instance?
Well, they, by God, better understand it, and they better get somebody that can explain it, and that's their fault. And
That's a failure of the directors. You agree with me? That's a failure of the
I
directors.
absolutely agree with you.
I do too.
Yeah.
If an issue comes up in an audit committee or in an open board meeting that someone around the table does not understand, it's his responsibility to